Begin the current Daf, Mesech Kesuvos Daf Chav Gimel. We begin on the bottom of the base. We learn up in the bottom of the oven. We continue the theme of the previous Daf regarding when we have a contradictory testimony from two different pairs of witnesses regarding if this woman is allowed to get remarried or not. And then we continue with different opinions and different interpretations of different cases. So this is discussing today's Daf are interesting. Well, we had mentioned this in the previous Daf, but if one aide testifies to something and one aide testifies against it, so it would seem like it's a regular one against one. But if there's anything that they both agree to, so that we follow that and we reject anything else, because as we'll see, that there's a premise that each one of them is agreeing to. There's one is disagreeing now with what's changing from later on. Then since that premise is agreed on by both of them, it's going to be essentially like a 2 against 1. Saying we didn't see is not real testimony. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. The shiur hakilu is the halacha that we're lenient regarding when a woman is taken in captivity, although we suspect that maybe she was defiled, but we still lenient because we don't know definitively. We mentioned this in the previous stuff that a woman does not have the audacity to say in front of her husband, like you divorced me, straight to his face, and therefore if she does say, then we actually do believe her because we presume she would never say it if it wasn't really true. So begin the current Daf, on the base, 3 lines up at the bottom of the oven. Turn on learn the Brisa, which really continues the first case we mentioned on the previous Daf, and then we continue with another case. We're going to ask how to understand this. Turn on Shloimy. Let's say 2 witnesses say about this single woman, oh, we know she got engaged. But Shloimy 2 says, no, she never got engaged. So we have Machlekes Eidim, did she get engaged or not? So the Brisa says so she shouldn't get married to anyone else because it's obviously a subject deraisa, so she might be Asian, might be not. If she did get married, okay, then like Tate say, we don't make her remove herself from her new husband. That's one case. Another case, let's say we have two witnesses regarding a married woman say she got divorced. Two witnesses she did not get divorced. So again, it's a disagreement between the witnesses. Is she able to get married or not? So here also, it's a subject deraisa. She might be married woman, she shouldn't get married. But here it's different. The missus, if she got married, teitze. So actually, wait. The first case we didn't mention the previous stop. The second case we mentioned the previous stop, but that was like Rabbi Yomi. Rabbi Yomi said that okay, even if you got married, you have to leave. On that, we said Rabbi Yomi held. Rabbi Yomi had differentiated between 2 different cases, and on this case, he held that if you get married, you have to get divorced. Now, those are 2 halachas. One case we said if you got married, you don't have to leave, by the case of Niskacha. The other case said you do have to leave. So as we continue down Chav Gimel Menaf, the Gemara asks, Maishna Reisha. What's the difference in the case of the Reisha regarding if she had a kedusha or not? Where they tell me, okay, even though it's a subject deraisa, maybe she's married, maybe she's not. If she got married to someone else, we don't make her leave. Maishna Seifa. Why is the Seifa different? Where you said that it sounds like the same thing. We're not sure if she's divorced or not. Is she Asian or not? There you tell me if she get married to someone else, she has to leave. Why? What's the difference? Isn't it the same thing? If you have disagreement if she got engaged to someone else or if she got divorced from someone else, it's either way. It's a machlekes of the Eidim if she's married or single. So why but one do we say loy teitze and one we say teitze? So Abaya says, I'll explain to you the difference. He actually says we're talking about a specific type of a case here in the Brisa. Tirguma, you have to explain that the Brisa is talking about actually the 8 echad. As we mentioned this in the previous Daf, Abaya himself said the same type of interpretation. We're talking about the 2 different peers are not peers, it's actually one witness. Adam and Niskacha, one witness says she got engaged. Says, I saw we were in the mall, he took out a ring, he got engaged to her. One says, not true. There was no engagement. Now, so essentially what comes out is Tarvayu, both of them, both of them are testifying that she was single. Up until now, they're both saying, we shared a chazaka that she was single before she got engaged. And what comes out is that the one who's saying she got engaged, he's saying, but now she got engaged. So he's one. So it's really like 2 against 1. There's 2 witnesses saying she was single. One is saying, but that changed. Well, we can't. That's 1 against 2 because we have a chazaka. Both of them are establishing that she was single. Whereas Seifa, it turns out it's exactly the opposite. One witness says she got divorced. I was there. I saw the husband gave her the get. Someone says no, she didn't get divorced. They're both testifying that she was a married woman. That's the premise of getting divorced. You must have been a chazak of a married woman. So this one that's saying that she got divorced, she's 1. 1 doesn't work in place of a 2. So that's why that's the difference between what was the prior premise of Niskacha or Nisgarsha. Niskacha, the prior premise is that she was single. saying, did she get engaged? No. Nizgarsh, the prior premise is she was married. Did she get divorced or not? Whoever's the one that's saying the opposite of the prior chazaka, we don't believe because it's echad b'makom shnayim. That's why by niskarsha we say teitze, and by niskadsha we say loy teitze, because by niskadsha she had a chazaka that she was penuya, so if she gets married to someone else, although to someone deresa, we can say you don't have to leave because that was your chazaka. Echad b'makom shnayim. That's one interpretation. That's the interpretation of Abai. Rav Yomi says no. Lo'im trey. Truthfully, is as the girsa of our brisa is actually that it's not one against one. There was two against two, but the epuch. You have to actually switch around the cases. In the case of the Reisha regarding if she was engaged or not, you actually have to say if she got married teitze, not loy teitze. So everyone's playing around with this brisa. Either you're playing around switching two against two or one against one like a bison, or like Rav Ashi is you have to switch it from the case of niskacha from loy teitze to teitze. And by the Seifa, which talk about if did she get divorced or not, you have to say if she got married to someone else, loy teitze. And he explains. It says, I'll tell you what the case he told about. It's different than how we read it. Two witnesses say, we saw her get engaged. Two say, we didn't see her get engaged. Not that she didn't get engaged, we didn't see her get engaged. So that's what the Bryce is still saying. Still, she shouldn't get married because the mice it's still a suffix for us on the deraisa halacha. But Nissus, and she gets engaged. Teitze, she has to leave. Says Pshita. Wait a minute. Of course she has to leave. Loira nu in the raya. You have two witnesses that says we saw her get engaged. Two other witnesses we didn't see. Araya that you didn't see. What does that mean? How does that prove that she didn't get engaged? Of course. What would be the chiddush in saying Teitze that she has to leave the second person? No, it was necessary. There is a chiddush over here. Because it's talking about the Dari B'Chatzer Echad. It's talking about that these four people live in the same courtyard, or those two at least, the two that says that we didn't see her get engaged. They live in the same court, in the same complex, same development. Right? Everyone knows what's going on in everyone else's backyard. Now the day, what would you say if these are in this gotcha was true that she got engaged? Kol Islam also, the word would have gotten out. And we would have known, but we didn't see anything. We didn't see any, we didn't say nothing was going on. So obviously she didn't get engaged. Kamash Malon. That's what I'm saying. No, it's not a raya because the abdi inshid the mikajabit. It could happen that people want to get engaged discreet, and therefore the halacha would be since we have two witnesses we did see her get engaged. The ones that say we didn't see is not a raya, and therefore if she does get married to someone else, Tate say she has to leave the marriage because she definitively already was engaged to someone else beforehand. That's the case of the Reisha, of the Skacha, that was saying that Tate say. Whereas Seifa, the case of Seifa was the same idea. Two witnesses say, we saw her get divorced. Two witnesses, we didn't see her get divorced. So she should not get married to someone else, because ultimately it's a subject there, right? But if she did get married, she doesn't have to leave. Says what's the chiddush of the Seifa? You tell me because Avigab the Dari B'Chatzer Echad, even though they live in the same courtyard as that couple, and they didn't hear that she got divorced, so maybe you would think to say, oh, we didn't see her get divorced, so maybe that what? You would think she would have to leave? Well, and you're saying that you don't have to because the lawyer knew is not a raya? Behind the it's the same chiddush as the case of Niskata. What are you adding on by the case of Nisgarsha, where we say that you don't have to leave because we're saying the fact that they didn't see her divorce is not a raya, and therefore we're assuming like the first pair of witnesses that she did get divorced. So what's the extra chiddush of the Sefer? Says the Gemara, no. Ma'adimo, you say, Gabi Kedushin, by getting engaged. Who David the interested in Kajabitzin, that people would be discreet. Of a Gabi Gerishim regarding divorce, and he said, the Garsha, if it was true that he divorced her, Kala Islam Milsa, the word's going to get out because it usually gets like messy and it gets like loud and people start, Kedushin, it's discreet, just me and you, just the two of us, no one has to know about this. But the Gerishim, you would think that it wouldn't be like that. And therefore you would say, if we didn't hear, then this something for us to be concerned about. Maybe Shitaka didn't get divorced, and maybe we would make even maybe like even Tate say. They're teaching that David the injured the Mekacha and the Garsha would sin. No, it happens that people get engaged and even get divorced discreetly. Not everyone goes and makes a big rash, makes a big tumult, and therefore it's not a raya that they didn't hear that she got divorced, and therefore the law is going to be that if she did get married to someone else, although it's a subject of rights, we're going to say loy Tate say. But even so, it says Rashi, so then why could she not get married? It's because of laws of Sivasayim. Really, that's when we have nothing to be concerned about. Because the fact that we didn't hear that she got divorced, not a raya. And we have two witnesses that she got divorced, so why Nikitchil like to Nasa? They're saying, If she got married, he said loy teitze. But why can't you initially get married? That's because of people murmuring, saying, I don't know, we didn't hear anything, and she's getting married to someone else, and pride mazana, who knows what she is, and people are going to start murmuring because we didn't hear about it. So that's when the ketchil loy tinase, because of lazar safasayim. But of course, if she gets married to someone else, we didn't say loy teitze. Now, it said in the Mishnah, we said in the Mishnah 2 cases, a Reisha and a Seifa, regarding this halacha of pesha asa pesha hitter. We had a woman says, Eishes ish ho yisi v'grushani. Woman says, I've just moved from out of state, from out of the country. She comes and says, I want you guys to know I was married, but I'm a divorcee. Okay. Another case was nishpeisi b'tarani. I want you guys to know I just was released from captivity. Really? Wow, what happened? It wasn't on the news. Don't worry. But tahirani, nothing happened to me. So the Mishnah said in both these, she's nemena. She's believed. Why? We didn't know she was married. We didn't know she was in captivity. She's saying she was, which would make her usher. But she's saying, don't worry, I'm divorced, and I was telling her. So we believe her. Then the Mishnah concluded with the following words. The Mishnah, this is Bo Aiden. Now, if after she really got married, then witnesses come along and say, hey, you were married. Hey, you in this base? Then, Harizaloi Teitze. The halacha is even so, since the witnesses only came after she was married, then she doesn't have to leave the marriage. Meaning, if they would have came beforehand, maybe. But afterwards, loy teitze. So now there's a machlekes in the Gemara regarding the final statement. Is it going on the Reisha or is it going on the Sefer? There's 2 different cases. Eishes ish and Espesi. Which case is that going on? Says the Gemara, Reisha. He learns these words of emissionissis, Bo Aiden, if she's already married, and then when this come, and they say, hey, we knew you were married, and she got married on her own word, because she said, yeah, I was divorced. That's what the halacha is saying, loy teitze. And Rabbi Masimah Sefer, he learns this statement going on the second case of the Mishnah, on Nishbesi. She says, I was taking the captivity, but I was tar, and therefore they permit her to get married based on her pesha aser. And then witnesses come along and say, hey, they released you from captivity? Oh, you guys know that she was in captivity? Yeah. Oh, she's already married already. So then loy teitze. That's the 2 different versions. So the Gemara explains that man de masala reisha, Rabbi Shloimy that learns this statement going on the first case of the Mishnah, kol shkena sefer. For sure he would say the halacha on the sefer. He would say for sure that if she was said in the shpeisi b'tayrani, and then witnesses come after and say that she was in captivity, then for sure she will be like Tezin. Why? Because the b'shvur akili. In general, we relate regarding the laws of a captive woman because that's just what's called a chashash ba'alma. It's just a generic concern. Maybe the non-Jewish captors will boil her, and therefore they made her pasul to guna. But it's not something definitive. It's just a concern. So for sure, in that case, if we believe her, the case of Eishes Ish Yisi v'gerushani, which is a definite chazaka of Eishes Ish, but she said gerushani, we believe her for sure. We're not going to say teitze when it was a case of shvuya. But the one who learns the Rabbi Oven, who learns it on the Sefer, on the case of Shvuya, Avaladei Shaloi. But according to the case of the Reisha, regarding the case of Eishes Yisi V'Gurushani, when she's already married to another man, and then witnesses come along and say, hey, you were married, what happened? She's like, yeah, I got divorced already. Oh, we don't know anything about that. So then actually, he's going to hold that the halach is not going to be like it's miteitze, because we don't have any more heter over here. She has a cheskes eishes ish based on what the witnesses are saying, so we don't believe her. She doesn't have any migrate, any pesha also pesha, and then we may actually make her leave that marriage. So the Gemara wants to understand this machlekes and says, let's say that they're disagreeing with what we said in the previous daf from Rav Nuna. Rav Nuna said that if a woman says to her husband, you divorced me, she's believed. Seemingly, this is their machlekes. Why? The man demasin la reisha, according to Rabbi Isha, that learns this halacha of loy teitze on the case of the reisha of Eisha sister Eisha b'gerushani, and then after she gets married, someone else witness come along and say, hey, you were a married woman, and she said, yeah, but I was a gerusha. Isla did Rav Nuna. He held her Rav Nuna, and therefore this that she says I was divorced, she's believed even without a pesha aser, because we lose the pesha aser when the witnesses come along and say you were married. Oh, so we're not going based on your word. We know you were Eishes. Now you want to say you were gerusha, one woman? Do we believe you? Yeah. Rav Nuna says we believe a woman. She says I was divorced. She wouldn't have the chutzpah to say that, and therefore we're going to say loy teitze. But the Madla Masala say, according to Rabbi Oven, who learns it only on the case of Shmuya, but he does not say this halacha of Leiteitze on the case of Eisha Shayisi, less than Nuna. Doesn't hold like Rabbi Nuna. No, a woman would have the chutzpah to say it. And therefore, why are we believing you that you grusha? We have Aiden that they were Eisha Sish. Says Gemara, no, not necessarily. Kuli Yama could say that everyone whole Islu Rabbi Nuna, everyone agrees to Rabbi Nuna's halacha. That in general, when the woman comes along and says that I was divorced to her husband, we would believe her, because she would not have the chutzpah. But what they're disagreeing about over here is because the Mar Sava, Rabbi Armin held, when did we say his teaching that for sure she must be saying the truth when she says I was divorced, is befanov, is to his face. The woman would not have the audacity to look her husband in the eyes and say, you divorced me. Say, I divorced you? She wouldn't have the gall to do that. Here is not in front of him. She came from out of state, she came from another country. And she immigrated, and she's not in front of him. She'll say, I was divorced, my husband's still waiting for her, doesn't know that she's never coming back, right? So that she would have the chutzpah. That's a Rabbi Armin held. She held that no, means a woman would have the audacity, even not in front of her husband, to say I was divorced. She would have that trepidation, and therefore she is believed after the fact. If she did get married to someone else, that we would say Loitetze, that's what they're disagreeing about. They agree to Rav Nun. The question is how far does Rav Nun's halach extend? Is it even Shleibafanim? That's the machlekes would be saying Loitetze when the woman herself says that I was Nizkarsha because we don't go with her Pesha Asa anymore because we have witnesses already. Would we say Tetze or not? That's the machlekes between Rabbi Shia and Rabbi Baram. Now we said in the Mishnah that same quote that we just quoted before, but in Mishnah, if she really got married, then witnesses come, so we said, then Hariz Loitetze then. She doesn't have to leave the marriage. Now, the Gemara qualifies this teaching. Amar Abu Shmuel. The father Shmuel said, I want you to know, Loi Nisis Mamish. We said this halacha that, okay, if you didn't get married yet, and now witnesses who came and says, hey, we know you were Shmuel, you know your Ish is this, everyone agrees, you're not getting married. Because you're not allowed to. We have witnesses saying you don't have a Pesha, so we're not relying on you. The halacha was only, which again, we had a machlekes regarding which case is going on. Once you're married, okay, you're already married, we're not going to revoke that marriage. We're going to let you stay married. The father Shmuel said one step more of a chiddush. He says, when we said that if you got married, you don't make you leave, it doesn't mean this is not, it doesn't mean you literally get married. Once we gave you the permission to marry, you came to court, the woman says, okay, the court hears this, and say, okay, paskin, mutter, let her get married. Then witnesses come along and say, hey, he's leaving from the best and says, this woman's a married woman. Oh, we're ready paskin, we already permit her to get married. Then out of like this is even though she didn't get married yet, she's still permitted now to go to get married once we permitted her to get married. Says, how can you say that? But it says that she doesn't have to leave. Sounds like she's married and she doesn't have to leave the marriage. Says, no, it means even if witnesses come, she doesn't have to leave from her prior, her initial heter, even before she gets married, as long as it was before the witnesses who said it's forbidden, that she doesn't have to leave from that heter, but she's not even married yet. Similarly, the Gemara says, if a woman says that I was taken in captivity, but I'm pure, and the Yeshli Eidim, I have witnesses that were with me at all times that can testify that I am pure, that I was never alone with any one of the non-Jewish captives. We don't say namtin, okay, let's wait till witnesses come. No, we don't. We permit it right away because ultimately it's a Pesha Asa. Because she's saying I was taken in captivity, and she's saying that I have proof. So that's Pesha. Let's say let's say they permitted her to get married. Then witnesses come along and say that she was taken in captivity. But when they say, we don't know if she was defiled or not. So she doesn't have a Pesha Asa. Because we're not going based on her. We have witnesses who said they were taken in captivity. Even so, she doesn't have to leave the, like we said, the same idea. They already permit her to get married. So even though she didn't even get married yet, she still remained with the original head. But let's say there were witnesses who testify regarding the defilement. They say we saw what these captives did to this woman. Even if she has many children from the kind that she subsequently married, they say she got to leave the marriage because obviously she was nibble l'apostla and she's asked to guna. So
what about the women?
What?
What about the women?
So they be chalom, whatever I'm saying.
Are they chalulim or they just suffix chalulim?
Why? No, they saw her nivel l'apostle. The Eidei Tumah. Eidei Tumah is not just Eidem that saw that she was nishbis. They saw her being defiled, and so therefore she would have to leave the marriage. Now the Gemara actually brings an interesting story that Hanish Buyasa. There were these captives, the Asim Narda, these captive women that were brought to Narda because the captives wanted for them to be redeemed, to be ransomed. So the father of Shmuel went and put guards together with the captive women to make sure that the captives didn't defile them. So Shmuel, his son, said to his father, and up until now, who protected them? Essentially, he was trying to say that, as Taisa says, Kvar Nesru, what are you trying to do? Trying to protect them. What do you think they did with these women all along up until this point? What's the point of putting guards now? So Malay, the father Shmuel said to him, Ilu benasachavim, if these would be your daughters, mihavis mezalzabu kulaha, you think you'd be so disgraceful regarding them? So Javier, this was like the pasuk says in Kehelis, kishkago sheyitzim lifnei hashalat, like an error that comes out from in front of the ruler, which means to say that when the tzaddik says something, then it's, even if he doesn't mean it, but lamaisa he said, if something like this would happen to your daughters, and Vishtabim Bansid the Shmuel, and subsequently the story happened that the daughters of the master Shmuel were taken in captivity. Vaskinu Lardi Yisrael. Although they lived in Babel, but the captives went and took him on this journey, and they took him up to Eretz Yisrael. Ukmin. And the father Shmuel, the mother of Shmuel was a captive, so that's why he was. Oh, the father of Shmuel. Why? Because of. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I mean, like you say experientially. They say until you go through it, then you don't necessarily. Yeah. So he took him up to Eretz Yisrael. Ukmin l'shmanayim avroy. So the girls, they left the captives on the outside. I guess they gave them some liberty. That they didn't want the captives to come in front of the bezin. Now the bezin's not going to know that they're captive girls. They're going to come themselves so that they can permit them. So the captives are outside smoking, drinking, whatever they are, and the girls are just like walking into the Beis Medrash of Reb Chanina. So Hamar, this girl says, Nishbeisi b'tarani. Says, I was taken captivity, but I'm tar. They didn't do anything to me. And the next girl says, well, I'm a Nishbeisi b'tarani. The next girl says, I was taken captive, and I'm tar. So Sharinu, so the Bezdin, Chanina, permitted all the daughters of Shmuel because of the Peshas of Peshitin. Now, so for the end, Ul Asr Shmanayu, the captors, where are these girls that come marching into the Beis Medrash, and they find them that these are the captive girls, they're here in the Beis Medrash. So Chanina says, wait a second, the non Demaryan that these are the children of a Moir Hara, of a great person, of someone that's a halachic authority, that they know how to do that they know how to do such a thing, and because of the fact that they obviously knew how to come in on themselves. So Gloy Nilsa, the bounty of our Shmuel Haba. So it's ultimately revealed that these were the daughters of the master of Shmuel. They finally they realized that there's something going on. We have these girls chap to come in by themselves. So and again, and they had already been permitted, that's why we're bringing the story, they had already been permitted based on their own words, even though subsequently we realized that obviously they're taken captive doesn't make a difference. So Chanina said to Reb Shimon bar Abba, who was a Kohen, he says, go ahead, go get engaged to go marry one of them because they're your relatives. So Chanina said to Chanina, wait a second, but there are witnesses overseas who saw they were taken as captive, and let's discuss why you need to see them take captive. You have the captives to themselves, but maybe they're going to come tomorrow, and a later point in time after they get married, and therefore what's going to happen is that there's no pesha aser because you can have Eidim. This is what we said before. You lose the pesha aser, so then they're going to become forbidden to a kohen. So how could I, a kohen, marry these captive women? They don't have a pesha aser, and then maybe they were defiled, and the kohen's not allowed to marry such a girl. So he said to them, don't worry, hashtamias lesno gaman. But right now, those witnesses are not here before the marriage. And because maybe they're going to come, we don't make it forbidden right now. Because Eidim B'tzad Istan, you have witnesses in the north, B'ti Aser, and they're going to be forbidden now. but they didn't come before the marriage. And that's not a problem because they're not coming before the marriage. So the Gemara wonders, what are you telling me? Because witnesses didn't come. And you're saying once you're married, it's not a problem. As we said in the Mishnah is Bo Eidim Reizol to Nas Leitates. Well, also Eidim Mitzvah? Are you telling me that if witnesses would come, it would be forbidden? But Vama, the father Shmuel says, even if Kimin Shatirul and Nase, even just permitted them to get married. Even if they didn't get married, be permitted. So once we give the psak, so what's the problem? You're saying that the witnesses are not here. Sounds like if the witnesses would come, it would be problematic. Why? Who cares even if they lose the Pesha also? We said we don't care. So once we permitted you to get married, so you permitted. So as the Gemara Rav Ashi says, no, the story was Edi Tumah. He was saying that witnesses overseas, the rumor is that there's people who saw them being defiled. Not Edi Shua. Edi Shua wouldn't do anything, right? We were permitted to do nothing. Well, like we said before, but if Edim come along subsequently and say that we saw a Nitima'ah, then Taints even has many Banim. That's what he was saying, that they said Edi Tumah. On that he was saying that we're not concerned for that, and it's not something that's so shchiach, and therefore we're not worried that maybe there's Edi Tumah overseas, and don't worry, you can go ahead and marry your relative. In Tamid Beis, we continue with the same theme of this halacha, pesha asa. We're discussing these mishnayos regarding believing someone based on, look, you only know it's a problem because of me, believe me that it's permitted based on me. So shtei nashim shenishbu, continuing this theme of captivity, if there are two women that were taken into captivity, meaning, as Rashi says, that there are witnesses that are taken in captivity. So Zoysim Meres, this one says, which is difficult then because why are they saying nishbeisi? We have witnesses, place to discuss that. But Zoysim Meres nishbeisi v'tarni. This one says, yeah, I'll take captivity, but I'm tar. But Zoysim Meres nishbeisi v'tarni. This one says, I'll take captivity, and I'm tar. The halacha is ein nemenis, they're not believing because there's no pesha asa. We know that we take captivity from the witnesses. You're saying you're tar. We don't believe you. Why should we believe you? But if let's say each one is testifying regarding the other girl, each one says, my friend is tar, I know I was with the whole time, nothing happened to shiur, nothing happened to Malka, nothing. Then they are believing. And the reason that is because by a shvuya, by a captive woman, they were lenient to believe even one witness, even if it's a woman. So the other captive girl is believed regarding the other one. Regarding herself, she's not believed. But anyone else, even a Isha, is going to be believed, and therefore then, they're each going to be believed that they're tahir. Now the Gemara brings a brisa that Tarabanan, that has 4 different cases, which we're going to have 2 different versions of how to interpret this brisa. So it's 4 different cases. 4 different things a girl could be saying as a captive woman. Case number 1, Ani Taneya. These 2 girls were taken in captivity. They come back, say, what happened? What was the experience? What was the ordeal? So one of them says like this, is Ani Taneya. I was defiled. V'chaverti tar, but my friend, she's tar. Says the brisa, halacha is nemenis. She's believed regarding everything that she said on both parts of her statement. We're going to explain this as we go along. The second case is Ani Tahira, the other way around. She says, I was tar, nothing happened to me. My friend, Nebuch, I saw what happened to her. She was defiled. She's not believed on everything. As like we said, the Gemara is going to explain all these cases. Case number 3. Ani v'chaverti tmeya. Me and my friend were both defiled. So the men's halas, she believed regarding herself that she's tmeya, that she's asur tarkain, she was never the apostla, but the ain in the men's chaverti should not believe regarding her friend to make her tummy. Case number 4, final case. Ani v'chaverti tayr. Me and my friend are tar. Nothing happened to the 2 of us. The men's chaverti should believe regarding her friend that her friend is tar, but the ain in the men's halas should not believe regarding herself to make her tar. Those are the 4 cases, which is very simple to understand to get to the 2 cases. Either it's the first 2 cases are the inverse of the other. I'm tameh and she's tar. Case number 2 is no, I'm tar, she's tameh. Case number 3 is that we're both tameh. Case number 4 is we're both tar. Those are the 4 cases that we discussed. Now, so the Gemara explains, the town of the Brisa said, case number 1, case number 2 actually. Case number 2 was Ani Tahira, v'chaverti tmei. I'm tar, nothing happened to me. My friend is tamei. So we said Ein should not believe on her whole statement. So the Gemara wonders, hey Chadam, what's the case talking about? Meaning, either like Adam, if there's no witnesses that they were taken into captivity. So wait a second, why wouldn't she believe regarding herself? This is what we said in the previous Mishnah, that meaning, in other words, this is a pesha aser, that she's saying, take captivity, but I'm tar. So that's a classic pesha aser pesha. So why wouldn't she believe? There's no Adam that she would take captivity. Elam Shida, obviously you have to explain case number 2. From case number 2 you could infer, they Kedim, that there must be witnesses, and therefore on herself she not believe to say her Torah. Now, Rashi points out, regarding her friend also, even though we say that actually she does have a chazak of Tama because of the Eidim, so why did then the Brisa say that she's not believed regarding her friend that she's Tameh? So Rashi explains, it's not because of believing you, because without her testimony, she would have a cheskes Tama because we have witnesses that they were nishba. So it means, you could explain it means that we don't believe her regarding our friend. It's not really her. We don't believe her regarding herself that she's tar, and we also wouldn't believe her regarding her friend, but of course our friend would be Tameh because of the Eidim that they were taking captivity. But what you see from case number 2 is, obviously that there's Eidim. The problem is, look at the middle, which is really case number 3. Case number 3 said, because we consider the first 2 cases as the Reisha, and then the third case is Mitzias, and the fourth case is the Sefer. Mitzias. Ani v'chaverti tmeya. Where she said, we're both Tameh, we both never these violent, these oibdik chavim, they did terrible things. So in the Mensal Asma, she believed regarding herself that she was Tmeya. But in the Mensal Chaverti, she not believe regarding her friend. Now, as Rashi points out, obviously you have to say that her friend is going to have a chazaka that she's tahira. Why? Because although we said just before in the Reisha, I mean in case number 2, when we said she's not believed regarding her friend, although it's going on her whole statement, it makes sense to say Ein in a menace because of not believing her regarding herself. So although really not believing her regarding her friend, we said that although she's saying her friend is tummy, the friend is going to be tummy, it's not regarding her own words, but it makes sense we could interpret it like that because at least as the first part of her statement on herself, she's not believed, so you could say not believed on the whole statement. But over here, we're saying that she is believed regarding herself that she's tummy. But Ein in a menace al chaverti, she's not believed regarding her friend, you're explicitly saying only on the friend, obviously that would mean that the friend is tar, not the tummy. Because why would you say explicitly you're not believing her regarding the friend if the friend would be tummy? Because it's going on only her, not on both of them. So that part is difficult. Why? Because if it's like you just established in case number 2, that our witnesses that they're in captivity, why don't you believe her regarding her friend that her friend is Tameh if we have witnesses that she was taking captivity and then she should have a chazaka that she's Tameh? Why are you saying that the friend is going to be Tameh? It's rather obvious from case number 3, that there's no witnesses. And what? So if there's no witnesses, she's not believed regarding her friend because she's Eid Echad, and we don't know anything about captivity. No, I'm saying regarding herself, she's believed to make herself Tameh because she's the Shavya Nafshi Chaticha D'Yisura. A person can make themselves forbidden because whatever you say regarding yourself, I say this is chassid, so you can't eat it. But the friend, no one knows. There's no story. No one heard anything about captivity. You guys, maybe she took some type of hallucinogen, and we don't know what the way she said. Yeah, my friend was taken by aliens and this that. We don't believe her. So the friend is going to remain tar. There's no witnesses. So case number 2 sounds like there are witnesses. Case number 3 sounds like there's no witnesses. Ema Sefer, let's look at case number 4. Ani v'chaverti tar. Says me and my friend are tar. So he said the menace chaverti. She believed regarding her friend that her friend is tar. But the menace chaverti should not believe regarding herself that she's tar. Now, either like Aid, it's like case number 3, which we said there's no witnesses. Why should I believe regarding herself that she's tar? What do you mean? That's a pesha, that's a peshita. I was taking captivity, but I'm tar. Elab Shidra is obvious to Ikedim that there are witnesses. Says the Gemara, it comes out, Reisha v'Sefer. Case number 2 and case number 4, the Ikedim, like we proved there is witnesses. Mitziyasa, case number 3, the Ikedim, there's no witnesses. So Amabai says, yes. Reisha v'Sefer, the Ikedim. The Reisha v'Sefer are with witnesses, and Mitziyasa, the Ikedim. And the case of the middle, the case number 3 is where there's no witnesses. That's how we explain the Brisa based on how Abaye is saying it. That, you have to say that they have different conditions regarding what the cases are talking about. Papa, no, he says Kula, all the cases are the Ika. We have witnesses that they were taken into captivity. But he adds an interesting variable to the case. The Ika, Eid Echad Doka Apach. Everything this girl said in all 4 cases, we have one witness saying the exact opposite. So, as follows. Amra, if she says, and this is case number one, Ani Tameya. I was Tameh, the Chaverti Tar, my friend was Tar. Now, there's a single witness who tells and says, no. The inverse of everything she said in all the cases. Your Tar and your friend was Tameh. So it says, the Bryce is saying like this. Ihi herself, she made herself a piece of prohibited to Kain because she said she was nitma. So even though a witness saying you weren't, she's saying she believed regarding making herself usher, and therefore she's Tameya. But our friend is going to be permitted, is going to be ta'ira based on what she's saying, because by a captive woman, the Chacham believed one witness as a leniency, even if it's a slave or a maid servant, like the Mishnah taught in teach later on Chavzayin Amanal. If there's Eidim, even an Eved B'chulu, we believe. Now, wherever we believe one witness, that one witness is like two, as we said, this is Navcham Beis in the previous daf. And therefore, the words of that one witness who's negating what she's saying, who's saying that the friend was Tameh, is trying to contradict this woman who's believed like two, because by Shvui, regarding the Hikilu, is we believe the one like two. So that's why the friend's going to be taught. That was case number one. Case number two, Ani tar b'chaver titmeh. When she says, I was tar, my friend was tameh. Again, so the Eirach says the exact opposite. No, a tameir, you were tameh, b'chaver tachtar, and your friend was tar. So it follows. Ihi herself, and since we have witnesses that she was taken in captivity, as we said, that's where Papa agrees that all of them are talking about the Ikedim. So she has no right to go ahead and say that she's tar because there's no Pesha Asa. Because as Rashi explains, we're going based on the Eidei Shvuya, the witness who says she was taken into captivity. Because the one witness who says that she was Tameh, the one witness who contradicts everything she's saying, that's nothing. Because only Saita, when there's Reglaim L'Davar, when there was a warning and there was a Nistira, then we believe Eid Ech to say that she was Nitma. But we never believe one Eid she's Nitma. So why, if she's saying I'm Tahira, don't believe her? Because there are two witnesses saying you would take captivity, you don't have a Pasha Asa. But her friend will be permitted based on the testimony of the witness who's saying that the friend is tar. So although she's saying the friend is tameh, we don't believe her because she's echad makom shnayim of the Eid who's saying that she's tar. Case number 3 was ani v'chaverti tmeya. Me and my friend were both defiled. But the one witness says the exact opposite. You and your friend were tar. Okay, so she made herself a shtik chaza, she made herself a prohibited thing. And if the one witness is not believed to make her tar, even though we generally believe one ate by Shmui, but she's saying herself, I was defiled. Her friend is believed, is permitted based on testimony. The witness says, no, you both tar. But the Gemara asks on case number 3, Hasulamali, what do you need this for? Haineresha. What do you mean Haineresha? Rashi explains. The two halachas that you're learning out, you already know from the first parts of the Brisa. The halacha of Chaticha D'Isura, that you're saying she's prohibited because she's saying she's Tameh, that you know from the Resha. The fact that her friend is permitted based on testimony of the aid, that you know from what's called the Sefer the Resha. Because like Rashi explains, the two first cases are both called Resha because they're very similar. They're both just the inverse of the other case. The two second cases, the last 3 and 4, they're also one thing. Because by each one, we're learning one and the opposite, both the Resha and the Sefer. So you already know this from the Resha. So what are you saying the case number 3 for? Says Imam Madim, what would you say? No, maybe you'd say both of these girls are Tahiras Nidim, like the Eid Echad is saying. So why is this girl saying me and my friend were Nitma? Is because like the Pasuk says in Shayftim, Thomas Nafshim Palishtim, that Shimshon Agiba said, I'm going to die with the Philistines. That's what he declared. Maybe that's what she's doing. Maybe she hates her friend so much that she's going to spread rumors about her, even though the rumors are going to be about her too. But maybe really the truth is, like the Eid Echad is saying that they're both tar. Kamash Malan, that's why we needed to tell you that, yeah, she's believed on herself to say that she's Tameh. That's what the point of it was saying, because of course she's believed. That we would never narration. But maybe he would say, no, she's not believed because she's just trying to ruin it for her friend. But saying, no, we believe you regarding yourself, and it's going to be shaved in Nafshei Chadicha D'Isur. Case number 4 was, Ani v'chaver tzitayr. Me and my friend are talking. And one witness says, no, At v'chaver tachtamei, you're different, we're Tameh. So the case like this. He herself, since that witnesses that she was taking captivity. So like we said, we don't believe her to say that she was tahar, even though we would believe her tar in contrast to the echad of tameh. We don't believe echad of tameh, but we have two witnesses saying that you were captive, and there's no pesha aser, so we don't believe you. Her friend is permitted based on what she's saying, because the fact that the eid echad is saying tameh, we don't believe eid echad. We only believe eid echad the kula as by shvui hekilo. So therefore, that's the last case. So it says, what do you need the case number 4 for? This is the Resha of the Resha, meaning case number 1. Because most definitely, Rashi explains, we don't need to tell you that she's not believed regarding herself. Because that already we told you many times. That when you have witnesses that she's taking captivity, we don't believe it to say that she's tyranny. Now, regarding believing her regarding a friend, that's what you need it for. That even though you have one aid contradicting her, we believe her. But that, we already know from the Resha that we believe regarding her friend to say that the friend is Tahira. That was case number 1. The need to make Chaver to Tahira, even though one aid contradicting, we believe her. Says the Gemara, no. Ma'ademo, when you think to say, when do we believe her? It's been welcome to Pasla Nafsha, only case number 1. Case number 1, she says, I'm tummy, my friend is Tar. Oh, then we believe you regarding your friend because you're saying the truth, because you say you're tummy. Welcome to Mafsha Nafsha, case number 4, where she's saying that we're both Tar. Ema would say, oh, it was only for herself, for selfish reasons that she's saying it, not for a friend. Because she's saying, I'm Tar. So she's saying, oh, my friend's also Tar. So therefore you would think, we don't believe her. Kamashma, we're saying, no. For ourselves, we don't, but for the friend, we do, even in such a case. Now, the next Mishnah, let's just start the next Mishnah, continues this theme of the Pesha Aser. What do we believe regarding a person's nemanis regarding themselves? Also 2 men. Just like we said regarding the 2 captive women, so to 2 men. This one says I'm a kohen. This one says I'm a kohen. So they're not believed to give them truma based on what they're saying. We don't know them to be kahanim. But when they're testifying for each other, each one saying, me and my friend are a kohen, then says the Tanakama, then they're believed. Yudami says, no, we don't elevate a person to guna based on testimony of a single witness, even when you don't have what's called goimlin, even if you don't have when they're maybe paying favors to each other. Sure, over here, we have to be concerned with goimlin, meaning each one saying, hey, you say on me and I'll say on you. So then, we'll both get the truma. So we don't elevate, and it's not going to work with this other friend. Now, Amr Blazi, he says, Amasai, when did we say this? It's only only when there are people who are contesting that they're saying, no, this guy's not a valid kohen. But when there's no contesting, and then he says that you would elevate for kahuna based on testimony of 1 aid, which Rashi explains when there's no gun. And that's actually why that's the difference between Rabbi Lazar and the Tanakama Rabbi Yehuda, who they seem to both be saying the same thing. They're not. Rabbi Lazar is only saying that when there's no gunman, this case that we're discussing here of the 2 men is gunman. We're concerned that each one just testified with the other one that he should help him out. You give me and I'll give you. But in general, if there's no gunman, there's one guy saying for another guy, he says then we would believe if there's no oiling. The last opinion, he says, he says you do elevate the guna based on 1 witness, which you must explain. Wait a second, what's the difference between all of them? It sounds exactly like Tanakama. We'll explain exactly what's the difference between this opinion. He's also saying the same idea.